Welcome everybody. Hello, happy Monday night. I am Rebecca from the Schuylkill Center of Environmental Education. I will be your naturalist tonight on our weekly program of Ask-A-Naturalist. And today's theme is going to be all about teeth. Dental adaptations of some of our favorite creatures, both local and afar. We're going to talk about different kinds of teeth and how they might look different on some other creatures and why they look different and how different creatures and different animals might use those special individual teeth. So as always, I will start as we wait for a couple of viewers with an introduction to the program. This is our weekly Monday night 5 o'clock Ask-A-Naturalist program coming to you from the Schuylkill Center and myself, Rebecca. This is a program that with a topic that changes every week, and you are able and encouraged to ask questions during this live event in the comment section, or if you don't catch the live event and you're watching the video after the fact, you are also encouraged to leave any of your questions or comments behind as well, where I can see it and respond to it. You are also encouraged, please, to suggest options and ideas for other weekly topics whenever they whatever they may be, and whenever and whatever you would like to hear about. So please throw those in the comments as well, and always don't forget to tune in to every Monday night, and don't forget to check out our Facebook page and our website for other things going on at the Schuylkill Center as well. So I have on my table a whole bunch of different skulls from the Schuylkill Center, and they are complete with teeth, chompers, if you will. So like I said, let's get started. We're going to talk about some really cool teeth dental adaptations. What's an adaptation? Anyone know? An adaptation is a unique trait or characteristic that every living thing possesses that makes it best suited for its environment. It is something that has changed over evolutionary period of a very long period of time, so that the animal or plant or what have you has been perfectly adjusted and suited to its particular environment. So teeth are obviously a really big part of every animal's environment. If they have teeth, it's how they eat. And we can learn a lot as scientists about an animal based on its teeth, by identifying the animal and what it may eat, how old it is, even, as we see really often with deer, and we're going to get into that, and how healthy they were, and a lot of other things as well. So teeth are really important for us as scientists, as of course are they as important for the animals that own those teeth. The first thing I want to talk about is, of course, different types of animals have different teeth depending on what they eat. Herbivores will eat all plant matter, so they have teeth that are specially designed to eat plants. And they will have flat incisors and premolars and molars that will be for tearing and grinding up that plant matter. They eat throughout most of the day, and so their teeth will grow really slowly so that they can adapt to that grinding down of the teeth. So their teeth will grind down a lot more with age as they are chewing. And a lot of herbivores will also have special teeth for grabbing onto maybe grass or leaves on the front, those incisors. So we'll talk more about those. Carnivores, those meat eaters, they are eating flesh of other animals, so they have really sharp teeth. They will have those really sharp, infamous canine teeth for tearing off flesh, and then even their premolars and their molars will be relatively sharp, especially compared to those herbivores. And then omnivores, of course, think bears, raccoons, and of course human beings. We have a mixture. We have pretty sharp canines, but we have relatively flat molars and premolars. And by the way, this pattern of incisors, canines, premolars, and molars, that is a mammalian thing specifically. That doesn't really, generally speaking, that doesn't really apply to birds or reptiles. they have their own kind of patterns and teeth, which we'll also talk about, of course, over the course of this segment. But the pattern that we see is very much a mammalian adaptation in of itself, those different teeth. So, lost my page, hold on. Okay, so let's talk carnivores first. Let me show you some carnivores. So here we have the skull, the top part of the skull of a coyote, which we know we have in PA. And the first thing I want you to notice are those giant, sharp canine teeth. Now these things are meant for killing and for eating flesh off of other animals. And how could they not be, right? So they do have these incisors, which you'll see again. Those are sharp too, those incisors. And then they have those crazy canine teeth. And then you get to the molars, the premolars first, those three right here. 1, 2, 3, those premolars. And then those regular molars in the back, 3 here and 3 on the other side as well. And you can see that all of those teeth are actually quite sharp. So even those back molars, which are meant for chewing the flesh, those are all really, really sharp as well. So we do see that. Now here is another creature here. This, let me take a beat and point out skull shapes as well. So we have a coyote here, and then we have a different creature here with a much more rounded skull and a much more flattened snout. This is a mountain lion skull we have right here. And again, I want you to notice those crazy, crazy sharp, long canines. And they also have those, what we see here, which we don't see in the coyote because we don't have the bottom jaw, is you can see those bottom canines as well. And how they come up, actually, they lock in past the top canines like that. And we see those 2 sets of incisors, and then we see those molars, which this skull is clamped shut, so I can't open it, but if you look closely, you can still tell that those molars are really quite sharp, actually. And those are, again, those are meant for that grabbing and then that chewing down of flesh, the mastication, if you will, which is the chewing down, mechanical chewing down process we call mastication. So those are the carnivores. Now, we do have obviously plenty of herbivores in our midst and plenty of omnivores in our midst as well. Let's talk a little bit about one of my favorite creatures to talk about, actually, because they're so interesting, it's insane. And by the way, please, of course, feel free to ask your questions in the comments. I am taking questions about teeth all day today. Thank you, Brent, for your question. Was that coyote skull found in the park? No, that is a great question. This skull was actually, I am not sure where it was given to us. It does have an official tag on it with the label. And if you look close, it might be hard to see on screen, but this skull has actually been treated. So if you were feeling it, you might see how shiny it is. And it's very white also, so it has been treated, it's been bleached, and then it's been covered with a preservative that allows it to be really nice and smooth. So this, no, was not found in the park. We do see bones in the park though, actually, and sometimes we have them, but mostly we leave them be because they are a part of nature, and because it's much more cool for us as staff to be able to tell people such as yourself who might go to the Schuylkill Center if there is a bone or skull sighting off the trail or something that is easily seen. It's much more cool to be able to let you see it in real life. And we generally ask that people leave those things where they are. It's part of our leave no trace policy, where anything that dies should be left to its ability to be left in the wild, so that everyone can see it and so that it can break down and become a part of the earth. But good question. I don't believe any of the skulls that I have here today were found at the Schuylkill Center, actually. So thank you for that question, Brent. So let's go, like I said, to one of my very favorite animals to talk about. These teeth here should be a really good first indication of what this creature is, because it's extremely unique and you don't really see this color teeth anywhere else. This is the skull of a beaver. Now this skull, I believe, is actually no, this is a real skull, I believe. I don't think this is a replication. So, or if it is, it's a really excellent replication, but I'm pretty sure that this one is real. So beavers have these crazy, crazy orange teeth. Now, beavers are rodents, and they're super, super cool because rodent teeth, these two front teeth here, are continuously growing their entire lives. And that is because beavers and other rodents put a ton of wear and tear on their teeth throughout their life. Beavers chomp on wood to make their beaver dams, right? So they are chomping through bark and wood all day long, every day sometimes, and then they're dragging it back to wherever their dam is. So they need really crazy strong and continuously growing and sharpening teeth so that they can achieve their life goals. So beaver teeth actually have iron inside of them, whereas other rodents will have magnesium in their teeth. Beaver teeth have iron inside of them, which makes them extra, extra tough and resistant to acid as well. So that is what gives them this orange coloring, and it's similar to why our blood is colored red. It's that iron inside of it. So super cool. Scientists actually do use beaver teeth to study human tooth decay because beaver teeth, as I said, they grow continuously. They're incredibly strong and resistant to a lot of different types of wear and tear, and they are self-sharpening as well. So scientists, dentists like to study how we can make human teeth stronger and better, more resistant to different wear and tear by studying beaver teeth. Beaver teeth have that, they have the sharp and hardy enamel on the outside, and then on the inside they have the dentine here, the softer dentine. So that keeps them self-sharpening, keeps them able to gnaw on that wood all day. And rodents are all like that. They all have that ever-growing teeth. So if you own a hamster or a gerbil, you have to always make sure that you're keeping some cardboard, maybe some toilet paper rolls, something in there for them to gnaw and chew on, because they have to gnaw to keep those teeth worn down so that they can be comfortable. Similar to how we have to cut our nails at some point or file them down so that they don't get really, really uncomfortable and start breaking all over things. So beaver teeth are really awesome, and I'm not even done talking about them yet. We have in the center here, you'll notice beaver teeth, beaver skulls, they have those two incisors here, and if I had the bottom of the skull, they would have those two incisors, those orange incisors also on the bottom there. And then we have this really long weird gap here where there's nothing. And then we have, if you're able, let me see how close I can get and still show off those teeth. So you'll notice that these back teeth are layered in a really, really interesting way. And that is for grinding things down. And I can see by the fact that these teeth, so now I'll show them to you on the side here. So these are quite smooth on top. So I know that this beaver would be a little older because it's got that wear and tear on its teeth actually. And so the center, this gap here in between the incisors and the rest of the teeth is called a diastema. And beavers and rodents are not the only animals to have that diastema, that gap there. But it's basically so that they can chomp really efficiently and not have to worry about other teeth getting in the way or getting hurt or run down in any way. They're just super efficient chomping machines. I think that's all I have to say about beavers. I took my notes for you all so that I wouldn't forget anything. Yep, so that's beavers. And if you have any questions about beaver teeth, please feel free to shoot me a comment because I could just talk about beavers all day long. I think they're really amazing creatures. Let's, however, get into deer, because deer teeth are a very, very well-studied subject among hunters, among scientists, And we see deer a lot, especially in Pennsylvania, Philadelphia. We know that deer are voracious eaters, and if they are left to their own devices, they will populate and they will destroy entire forests. They will get into your gardens and eat your herbs. They'll eat crops. So deer teeth and deer diets are a great matter of study and of concern. And the interesting thing about deer as well is that because we have hunting laws for deer and hunting seasons, it is important to note how old deer are when they are hunted. And there's a few reasons for that. One of the reasons is we want to see how much and how fast deer are repopulating. How often are they meeting each other, mating with each other? How successful are deer births? How many of them make it from childhood to adulthood? And then how long are they living? How much damage are they doing? How much of a population is in a particular area? So it is really important to start to know the ages of deer that are captured in woods. And it is rare to find, in heavily hunted areas, it is rare to find a deer that is over, to find a hunted deer that is over like 5 years old. Mostly we're finding them between like, you know, those ages of 2 to 4 or so, which I just learned today actually in my research. So that was very interesting to me. So after 2.5-ish years old, it becomes much harder to identify deer's ages once they get older, because from youth up to adulthood, there are a lot of changes going on in that mouth that make it really easy to age a deer, actually. But you need, for older deer, after about 2.5 years, you start to need a lot more of a observance and a good eye and a lot of experience in aging deer. So unfortunately, the only deer skull that I was able to find today has a bit of wear and tear on it itself. It's missing the front part of its skull and its jaw. But that's okay. We have, this one was still my top choice because we have a lot of really interesting detail about these teeth here. And I did bring a second one for reference because these are 2 differently aged deer. And so I would like to talk about the missing portion first. Let me paint you a little picture. So picture the beaver skull imposed upon the deer. The deer also have those pointed jaw, and they have that diastema space gap in between the incisors and the premolars and molars. However, deer are interesting because they only have incisors, those front teeth there, on their bottom jaw. So this is the top of the deer here. So if its nose were going out, we would see that the front palate, where incisors usually would be, in this case is only a rough palate. And so the bottom jaw here would have incisors, and they're flattened incisors, and so the deer, when it picks up grass, picture only half of the jaw now coming up with those teeth and clamping down onto that grass and ripping it out of the ground. So actually, as opposed to other herbivores that eat grass, such as, let's say, rabbits, which have 2 sets of teeth, top and bottom, when they clamp down, they're making a much cleaner cut of grass. Whereas when a deer is grazing, or after an animal has grazed, and you're wondering what's on my lawn or what's in my field, you'll notice that the grass tips, the edges, will be much more rough around the edges where a deer pulled them up, rather than that clean cut that they will make as if you took scissors to it if a rabbit or something like that was eating it. So that's the first interesting thing about deer teeth. So like I said, they do have that those bottom incisors, no top incisors. They have that diastema gap here. And then we start to get to the premolars and the molars. Now on a deer, we have 3 premolars, 1, 2, 3, and then we have 3 back regular molars, 1, 2, 3. And so we'll have 6 of each on each side, right? So in a young deer, the 3rd premolar, which is here, 1, 2, 3, the 3rd premolar might still be, if you were to hunt a deer and then want to know its age, might still have 3 cusps. The temporary baby third premolar would have 3 cusps, whereas on an adult, as this one is, let me see if I can get up close, there are only 2 cusps there. So that is our first indication that this deer was in fact an adult, because at around 2 years or so, I believe, let me check my notes. Yes, by age 2, the premolars, the temporary ones, the baby ones, will fall out, and we are left with the top, the 2 cusp premolars. So that's our first indication, like I said. Now, the adult deer will also have all 6 teeth on one side, including those 3 premolars. In a younger deer, we might not see all 6, or we might see 1 or 2 of them be severely underdeveloped and really small there, and then we would know that they're not all in and ready to go. So those are those molars. And then the other thing I want you to take a look at, again, I'm going to turn it close to you. You'll notice, similar to the beaver again, we're seeing those layers of teeth there. So that is for grinding, chomping down that plant matter and then swallowing it. Plant matter is really hard to digest, actually, for all creatures. So it helps the more broken down it is mechanically, mastication, if you will. The more mechanically it's broken down in the mouth, the easier digested it is. So some animals will have to chew for a really long time. In fact, cows actually are ruminants, which means they have multiple stomachs. They will chew their grass, swallow it, it'll go into the first stomach, it will come back up, kind of a tiny throw up, they will chew it more, they will swallow it again, it will go into a different stomach. So deer are not that way, but it goes to show grass matter is very, very difficult to digest and very hard to chew down. And animals that eat grass will spend a lot of time chewing on it. And so as a result, you will start to see and be able to age a deer really well by the level of wear and tear on those back molar teeth and premolar teeth. So when I turn it sideways, you might be able to see that it's not super sharp on this one. There is a lot of wear and tear here. Now, I am not an expert. I am not going to be able to tell, especially with the level of dilapidation in this skull in general. I certainly won't be able to tell how old this deer is. If you're watching and you think you want to make a guess, have at it in the comments, please and thank you. But even I can see here that there is a lot of wear and tear down on these bones. Now, in contrast, allow me to show you a much younger deer. And again, I only have the bottom jaw here for this animal, but you can see that diastema, that gap, and you can imagine once we get to the front here that you would start to see those bottom incisors. This is the bottom jaw. Now, I want you to take a look at, see how much sharper and more prominent, and when I touch it, it almost hurts a little bit. Those are quite sharp. That is a very young deer that has not had that crazy wear and tear yet as much as this deer has. Now that I'm holding them next to each other, or one on top of the other, you can really see the difference in that wear and tear right there. So this deer is much younger. Still an adult, because I'm still only seeing 2 cusps on the third premolar rather than 3. This right here is a divot where one of the teeth fell out, so I know 1, 2, 3, this is the third, and like I said, 2 cusps there. So definitely an adult, but a much younger and a much less well-versed adult. So a professional might be able to look at these teeth, dilapidated as the rest of the skull is, and they might be able to make a guess on how old this animal was when it died. Not myself personally. The last one that I want to show you is, so we mentioned that mammals are unique in that they have that pattern of incisors, canines, premolars, molars. Now, that's a very mammalian thing. Reptiles, for the most part, are quite different than that, as we can see in this guy here. So reptile teeth are pretty much, mostly, with a few exceptions, they're pretty much uniform and they're quite simple. And many reptile teeth just look kind of conical, and they look pretty uniform all the way across, with the exception, like I said, for instance, snakes and those crazy fangs look a lot different than that, of course. But these are reptile teeth, and actually, whereas mammal teeth, mammals only get a chance to change their teeth once in their lifetime. They have 2 sets of teeth for the most part, baby teeth and adult teeth, yeah. Reptiles actually will be changing their teeth throughout their lives. And the newer teeth actually grow inside of the older teeth. And so they'll change their teeth, some of them up to several thousand times in their lives, much higher, faster rate when they're younger, and then as they start to get older, that rate of growth will slow down. So reptiles are really, really interesting in that way. They have those sharp teeth, and that is due to their lifestyle as well. It's also due to where their teeth are rooted down from, and their teeth are not as strong and steadfast in their bodies. Of course, alligators and crocodiles, we know, they like to chomp on things and then hold on to them in the water, and that requires a lot of jaw power, and it is also what happens is that they will lose a tooth here and there as prey is fighting back. So they have adapted to need to be able to regrow their teeth a lot. That is my segment. These are my skulls and bones. Please comment for me. And now that I'm actually, Brent had asked if this was if this skull was found at the park, and I initially said no. The more I look at it, the more this skull might be a replica. It's quite light actually, and the more I hold it, the more it seems to feel like it might not be real. So I will leave you with that. Some very good replicas, good enough that even I am not certain. So that's a good thing though. It's good that it's so good that I can't even tell right away. I will leave you with that though. And if you have any questions or comments for this segment, if you want to know more about teeth, if you want to know more about bones, leave your questions, comments underneath this video, and I'll answer them whenever I can, or I'll answer them in next week's video. Please keep a lookout for next week's topic. If you want to learn about something in particular, I don't care how weird or unusual it is, please throw it in the comments. I'll do my best to create a whole topic or segment out of it if I can. Especially if it has something to do with bones or artifacts, something like that, because I love hanging on to them, I love talking about them, I love showing them off. Makes me wish this segment was like an hour, because there's just so much that's so cool that you could talk about teeth. This half hour has gone by really fast, which is awesome. So please, like I said, reach out to me if you have any questions or comments. Check out our Facebook page, our website to see our weekly virtual programs we have going on, and keep up to date with how the Schuylkill Center is doing this summer and what we're doing, because we're doing a lot of really awesome stuff. And thank you as always for tuning in, and I will see you all next week on Ask-A-Naturalist. Thank you very much, and you all have a wonderful evening.